All right, welcome to the Fantasy Six Pack Network. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me covering his top 10 second base rankings is Connor Thomure. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. Just ready to talk about some second basemen.
Yeah. So before we jump into that, though, wanted to remind everybody while you're here, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave those comments, leave those 5-star reviews wherever you're watching and listening. We appreciate it. Love hearing from you. And jump over to Fantasy Six Pack. Our all access memberships are always up and ready for you to join. You're going to get access to our award winning rankings, our draft cheat sheets, our DFS content, our projections, betting, and then access to me and Connor and all the other analysts over there on Fantasy Six Pack in our Discord. And and if you want to play against us and see if you can beat us in a league, we're hosting the 4th annual Fantasy Six Pack series over on Fantrax. Winner gets a trophy from Trophy Smack. I'm bad at this. It's that bad boy right there. Let me just turn around. It's that bad boy right
I
there.
think it's
So you
pretty cool.
get a good old trophy from Trophy Smack if you win, which means I won last year. You got to come beat me. So we're changing it to a weekly format this year to hopefully get some more interest in the league. But we've had over 100 teams every single year, so hopefully we can keep it going. Jump over there. Go ahead and go on the site or check out my Twitter and see the pinned tweet for the link for how to sign up for that. So without further ado, though, let's jump in and do your second base top 10, starting with Luis Garcia. Which one?
Right. Luis Garcia Jr. of the Washington Nationals.
Yeah, I kid, but
Aged
hey.
he 25. No, he's still 24. So yeah, that Luis Garcia. But that is also a big part is his age.
Mhm.
Um, he's been around for 4 years now. So he made his debut when he was just 20 years old. Which I think that shows what the Nationals expected out of him
Mhm.
as a top prospect, top 100 prospect. And I think he was their number one prospect at the time he was coming up. And so far, we haven't seen him put it really anything together. He's been a huge disappointment. He's played some games and looked okay at times, but until last year, 2024, he hasn't put it together. But now, coming off 18 home run, 22 stolen base season, I think we could be expecting something similar to that, especially if they let him continue playing every day. I think that's I think that's kind of what we should expect out of him.
Yeah, he was a huge surprise last year. I remember kind of looking at the stats near the end of the year and being like, "Huh, he's actually doing pretty good."
Yeah,
wasn't anything crazy. Obviously, the Nationals are a struggle, to produce in that lineup, but they got some young talent there, man. You could kind of see this team, surprise some people this year, especially offensively. I think we could be
yeah.
surprised, and Garcia is going to be right in the mix of all of that. So I like that one as a number 10. So your number 9, Brice Turang. Um, had a horrendous first season, but really turned things around last year, and I think people gave up on him going into his second season, and rightfully so. I mean, he was
hmm
atrocious. Outside of 26 steals, you got literally nothing from this guy. But you thinking last year was more of what we can expect from him?
Yeah, but I am nervous. I am cautious because I think that what we saw from Bryson Stott in like 2023, we just expected him to do in 2024, and he flopped, like majorly flopped. And I'm nervous that Brice Turang might fall in that same ballpark. As I know he played in 2023, so this want to be like his sophomore year, but coming up and doing what he did, and maybe this year pitchers might figure him out a little bit more. And he doesn't have much power, so he's kind of just relying on
Mm-hmm.
his hitting skills and his stealing. If he wasn't able to steal 50 bases, he probably wouldn't have put up 72 runs. Probably would have been closer to 60.
Maybe even that. That might be 60. Might be a stretch.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah, that is what I meant to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I got mixed around for a second, but
No, no,
there
no,
you
no, no.
go.
You're good. Yeah, he is a guy. I'll be honest, man. I stay away from the kind of speed only guys because if they're not hitting for a decent average and getting on base, um, they give you nothing. I mean, it's literally nothing. There's no
Hmm.
power. You're going to get hardly any RBI because they just don't, they don't bat there. They usually at the top of the lineup, and so they're not hitting guys in. They're relying on batting average, steals, and runs. And his batting average isn't even really that good. He's just an elite stolen
No.
base guy. So when he does get on base, it's basically like, all right, he's going to steal. I mean,
Yeah.
so I'm with you, man. I'm super nervous to take him. If he was a discount like you were going to be able to get him for last year, or maybe even free, I'm all in. But
Yeah.
you're not getting him there. People are going to pay up for those steals, and steals are a premium category still, even with the new rules. He is going as the 7th second baseman off the board right now. Anywhere between a range of 80 and like 130,
Oh
133 on
man.
NFBC. So pretty high with 80, but
Yeah.
130 is probably about where he's going. It seems like NFBC and RC Sports have him there. People in
Okay.
Fantrax seem to like him a lot more. So we'll see, like when ESPN and like I said in other videos, like I've kind of removed the Yahoo ADP for now, just because it seems really, really off for
Hmm.
whatever reason. But like his ADP there is 215. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Oh
Like
no.
that it's just wacky right now. I'm not sure I can rely on it. But yeah, Trang was a surprise last year, but yeah, definitely got some red flags next to him. But let's move on here. Brendan Donovan, um, super utility guy over here. So what do we like about Donovan?
I like the multi-positional eligibility. So I like that. We check that box. I like his on-base percentage over the last 3 years. His career average is 364 on-base
Mm-hmm.
percentage. And as a second baseman, I think that's pretty good. Something to expect out of him. And the Cardinals offense, despite what we saw last year, I think they might surprise a few people. If Wilson Contreras moving to first base, he's going to play more.
Mm-hmm.
Should be playing every day, and we hope to see Mason Wynn and Jordan Walker continue to increase their production. And all in all, it's a bit risky, but I really like what Brendan Donovan brings to the table, and I think we might be seeing like an increase in his power this year. He let's see here. It was his swing speed was ended up being like really high. He increased it year over year, and we already saw that increase his home runs from. Well, I guess he went down, but in 2022, his rookie season, he only hit 5 home runs,
Mm-hmm.
and then 2023, in just 95 games, he had 11, and then it kind of took a step back. He hit 14 home runs in 153 games in 2024. I think we might see that get closer to 20 this year.
Yeah, I've always liked Donovan. Like there's just, and I forget, I wrote about him last year and I forget exactly what I said, but it was like he's just got like, you just feel like he's got a little bit of everything. And if it just clicks, like you're just waiting
Yeah.
for it to all work. And he's the type of player that like you could really all of a sudden see, like, would it shock you if he had a breakout year of like 25, 15, 25, 20 even? Like he can run, he just
Hmm.
doesn't as much as he probably could. Probably has a lot to do with where he is in the lineup and things like that, and situational things. But I don't think it would surprise anybody if he could bust out and hit like 25 home runs. We've seen the power. I mean, 11 in 95 games 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
That's kind of where it's at. It just, you're right. It didn't carry over. That's why we always say don't project out 162 games based off of a you know uh, you know the pace per is not always the best way to go. If you did that last year with like Yanir Diaz, you got bit. He
Yeah.
was still a
Oh
great
yeah.
player, but you weren't getting that power. That happens all the time. So yeah, it's he's such a tantalizing player, and at second base where it is just such a void. It feels like once you get past the top few. Taking chances on guys like this who have just the upside, that's just crazy high in my opinion.
I
Could be
agree.
worth it. And then, if it fizzles out, there's probably somebody on the waiver wire you can get, like Brice Turang last year. There you go.
Yep.
So Nico Hoerner. Ooh. This one hurt last year, man. But you're thinking he's gonna to bounce back a little bit.
Yeah, I think overall, I mean, he's been pretty consistent with his, his batting average and getting on base. His WRC plus is been over 100 for 4 straight seasons. And I think as far as second base goes, I mean, what more could you really ask for than someone that is able to produce like that?
Yeah,
He
I
doesn't
think
provide a lot of power.
no.
Hopefully, the stolen bases are still there, but the batting average has been consistent, and I'd like to see the on base just a tad bit higher.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been good.
Yeah, he bit a lot of managers pretty hard early on last year. I mean, he wasn't stealing a ton of bases. I mean, he just had he had 6 through May. That's not what you were expecting when you drafted him, right? He ended up finishing with 31, so it ended up coming around. But that first half of the season was pretty brutal for him. He ended up having 10 in August, and then again just 4 in September though. So it was just up and down. Even though he hit 355 in September, he wasn't running as much. It's just such a bizarre year. Again, it kind of goes back to the argument with Brice Turang. If you draft a guy who you're relying on average and steals from, they're not running, and running is very situational at times too.
Hmm.
You get a power bat, man, they're swinging for the fences 9 times out of 10. You get a steals only guy. Sometimes they can't run. There's guys in front of them. That's just not. There's 2 outs. You don't want to be the third out type of thing. That
Yeah.
kind of thing happens a lot, and so it's hard to rely on steals. You can and especially when you're drafting a guy who just stole 50, right? Projecting another 50 stolen bases is near impossible from most players.
I
So
agree. And I think the
that's
floor of someone like Horner is higher than Turing, which is why I
mm,
have him ranked a little bit higher here.
I'm trying to think. What was the guy's name? The Marlins player 2 seasons ago that just ran like crazy,
Um,
and he was a part-time player. He came in and he was I'm
Birdie,
blank.
John Birdie.
Yeah, and people were drafting him thinking he was gonna oh well, they got to play him. He was awesome. Well, they didn't. And so
No.
it was okay, so that's just brutal. Um, it's the guys you can project steals for are the super elite guys, right? The De La Cruzes, the Betts in his prime. He's still good, but he's not running as much, right? It's those types of guys that
Hmm.
you just know are going to be at the top of the lineup. They're always going to be in the lineup, and they're going to get on base a lot, and they're going to run. So those steals are a little more predictable, and because they've got power, they're always going to be involved, and so. But projecting a guy like Horner, who doesn't have any power, and just only speed. I struggle drafting those types of guys, and it is what it is. But Brandon Lowe here, I like Lowe, man. I think he's super underrated. But what do you say about him?
I also agree with that. Last year, I wrote on the waiver wire article, I wrote a handful of times, maybe not a handful, a few times,
Mm-hmm.
saying how he is super underrated. He is, when healthy, one of the top, or I don't know what position I'm thinking, top second baseman in
Mm-hmm.
baseball, especially in fantasy. And the issue with him, though, is the health.
Mm-hmm.
He's played 110 games only once in his career. So
And that
he's
was a
someone that
crazy good
brings
year for
risk with
him, by
him.
the way.
Exactly. And I'm hoping for that. And if we do see him play more games, over 110 games, he might crack the top 5.
Yeah. Batting average is something you're really never going to be able to lean on with him. He's projected at 233, which seems super low. But
Lower
I
than
mean,
his career.
221, 231, 244. So yeah. But he's a 245 career batting average hitter. So 233 feels a little low. I would kind of, maybe I could see it go up to 240, but again, it's not a category that you're drafting him for. You're taking him for basically everything else. I mean, if he plays 140 games, you're getting probably double digit steals or very,
Hmm.
very close to it. He's going to hit close to 28, 30 home runs if he's played a full season. And that's going to get his counting stats up into the 80s. And you're getting this guy at a pretty big discount, in my opinion, when it comes down to it. He's just not drafted. I mean, his ADP right now is in the 200s.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
He's free. You can wait on this guy.
Sign me up.
Right? Exactly. I mean, I'm gonna have a lot of shares of Brandon Lowe. I guarantee it. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get burnt when he eventually gets injured, but I'll figure that out when it comes. You know, like I will
Yeah.
take the category. I will take the stats, especially at that draft cost. You know, we talked about Bryce Harper, right, and some of the first basemen who aren't available at the top of the first baseman list, right? I stay away from those guys because they cost me a second, third round pick. I'm not staying away from a Brandon Lowe who's costing me a 20th round pick. Like, I'm going to take him all day and
Yeah.
just figure it out when he gets hurt. So I like it. Number 5 here, Marcus Semien. Usually a very reliable source of power. Still kind of there. Took a little bit of a step back last year, but what are we thinking here?
Yeah, he was kind of like the top dog here for a little bit at second base with Jose Altuve. He was competing with them and arguably was better than him for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw the power drop. He only put up 23 home runs. But the biggest issue for me was the drop in stolen bases too.
And
He
batting
put up
average.
and batting average, which the two could kind of go hand in hand. But he put up 25 stolen bases in 2022, only 14 in 2023, and then went down to 7 last year, or 8 in
Yeah.
2024.
Getting up there in age, 34. That'll happen.
Legs stop moving as quick, yeah. Yeah, you saw the batting average and the on-base percentage drop a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So someone that I think we got to rank up here in the top 5 because of what he's proven to do in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think I'm avoiding him this year.
Yeah, it's funny. I wrote an article a couple seasons ago, kind of looking at the correlation of, you know, exit velocity and launch angle, and like, can you look at those? Because they're talked about a lot, right? Like, oh, this guy's got an exit velocity of this and a launch angle of this, and so, well, what does that actually mean? And like, can we look at it and really predict home runs? And the answer really was no. And Marcus Semien was one of the best examples, right? You looked at his, and I did it after the year that he hit 45 home runs. I would have thought for a fact that he was like upper echelon of exit velocity. His exit velocity is 89 that year.
Huh.
But his launch angle was 20. It was crazy. So like, it's all different types of hitters. Like, so you get guys that can they're just skying the ball and it's carrying, you know, or you're just hitting guys that are hitting missiles. And so it's like, it's all over the place. And so there's different combinations that work, but then there were legit guys that sort of like balked the trend both ways. And I had to go back and look at it. It's been a couple of years, but I wrote about it in there. But I do remember seeing Semien kind of was one of the outliers where because usually you got to also get guys that hit, you know, huge launch angles and they're just like big pop-ups. And you see a guy hitting a launch angle on average of 20. Like, you would think a lot of pop-ups, especially when his exit velocity is only 89, but somehow the ball carried for him. It didn't make any sense. Like, it didn't add up. So I kind of projected like a bit of a drop off, and we got one like that year, 45 to 26. But like, he did so much, you know, other counting stats were so good. And then, you know, in 2023, the counting stats were amazing, 122 runs. Last year, not as good. The Texas offense struggled all around anyway. So, yeah, Semien's a guy who, you know, I'll probably have a couple shares, but yeah, he's not the top the top tier anymore, unfortunately. So,
yeah,
jumping close to this top tier, maybe part of it, Ozzie Albies, but we want to talk about availability. He's a guy who's struggling a little bit there with that.
Yeah, he definitely has, and that's why I have him below the guy that we're about to talk about. Is because his availability. Well, overall, I think Ozzie Albies could be a much more productive second baseman this year. It's hard for me to put him over anyone else in the top 3 because of that. And when he's healthy, expect 30 home runs, expect double-digit stolen bases,
Mhm.
whether it's closer to 10 or closer to 20. I think that's the floor for him. The things that are harder to predict for Ozzie Albies are his batting average or his on base percentage. We've seen those vary year to year. One year they're up, one year they're down.
Mhm.
So which version of him are we going to get? But overall, I do like Ozzie Albies. I think he should be considered one of the top guys.
Yeah, you're right. If he's healthy, he's a top second baseman for sure. And if that offense, the whole Atlanta offense, can stay healthy, which has also been a problem, it feels like you just know those top 3-4 hitters are just going to have monster seasons.
Oh
So,
yeah,
cross your fingers, he stays healthy, gives you 140, 150 games. If not, man, because you're still paying a pretty good price for him in draft. But it could be worth it, especially at a second base position, which we've seen on this list already. Drops off pretty quick. It gets pretty barren,
yeah,
really fast. So, Jordan Westburg. I mean, I love it. I'm an O's fan. So,
yeah.
got my Oriole bird back here.
I knew you would.
Jordan Westburg, number 3. This one, not gonna lie, shocks me, but I love it. Big surprise last year, coming out in the first half, being an all-star.
Mm-hmm.
And then unfortunately the injury happened, and then he just lost half a season because of it. So, but what are we thinking with Westburg, this year?
I was pretty high on him last year. I picked him in a couple of the leagues towards the bottom, just as a
Mm,
flyer. Like, hey, I expect a lot out of this guy, kind of similar to a Jackson Merrill, and that one also hit. So I was very
mm.
happy with both of those. And um, then, like you said, that injury happened, and he kind of struggled once he came back. He like to end the year.
Yeah,
I'm not
the
sure on the
last, it was like
exact
the last couple
numbers, but
games. Yeah.
yeah, he didn't look good, and I think even in the playoffs, he didn't look very good either.
Mm-mm. I don't think he was fully healthy, man. The September, October, he played 6 games before the playoffs and was bad. And then the playoffs, that whole team seemed like they were just done.
It's interesting
Unfortunately.
how that could work. But overall, I'm expecting a lot from him again
Mhm.
this year. Some people are, warning sophomore slump. But I mean, that's fair. I mean, he's made his MLB debut already. He made it in 2023.
Mhm.
I'm not didn't play much, only 68 games.
I mean,
And
I mean, I guess last year was his sophomore year,
yeah,
technically.
last year would have technically been his
So,
sophomore year.
I mean,
But
he
he still
broke
has
out,
yet to play that full year.
right.
So
He
maybe if
doesn't.
you see him play the full year, then that's when that slump might come in.
Mhm. Yeah, projections have him right around 19 home runs, batting around 264. It's a very safe projection with 264 batting average, spot
Yeah.
on to last year. They don't have the power increasing, even though they have his games played increasing to 134, which I don't know how you project only 134 games played. Yes, the injury, and then the year before he got called up halfway through the season. I mean, if you can project 150, I think we're looking at a 25, 26, 28 home run guy potentially if he can kind of
Yep.
carry what he did last year. I'd have to look at some of the underlying stats with him to see if it was a little fluky. But just first glance, not really.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
coming up as a prospect, the power was his best attribute.
yeah, I mean, home run to fly ball ratio was only 14. Like, it seems like that could go up. So you could even get
Yeah.
more. Like, and
Yeah.
now that the Orioles are now he bats righty. They're fixing the wall in left field. We're gonna
Finally.
see some more power coming out of those bats again, man. So these right-handed hitters are gonna potentially get even better for the Orioles, and I like it, man. I think we're sleeping on some of these right-handed power bats for the Orioles a little bit. You're gonna have to boost these home run totals because they are fixing the wall. They're bringing it back in. They're lowering it. Not quite what it used to be, but it's somewhere in the middle. So
I
I
think
do
that's going to be good.
I do like it. Yeah. So let's jump hitter number 2. Jose Altuve, just good old reliable man. Never seems to go away.
And you can't go wrong with reliable. I know he's getting older and older, but Second base is a position that's not too crazy hard on the body anymore. It used to be a little different when runners would slide into second base
Mm-hmm.
as hard as they could. So you don't see that anymore. But I mean, overall, I mean, you're looking at future Hall of Famer easily with
Mm-hmm.
Jose Altuve, and he didn't slow down at all last year. Put up a 2020 season with 20 home runs, 22 stolen bases, put up 31 doubles. Like, I mean, I'm all for it. I'll take that. And they got Christian Walker now at first base, so maybe that gives a boost to the offense.
It's got to
Might
be
be
better than what
losing
they
some
had.
other, might be losing some other positions like Bregman, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're gonna see the same old, same old.
Yeah, I mean, gone are the days where you got 30 home runs from him, but he's brought back the speed, which is a good thing. So he's, you know, they're manufacturing a little more runs with him. The batting average is back to, I say back. It never really went away outside of the COVID year. He was just horrendous that year for whatever reason. But
Yeah.
batting average is going to hover around 300. They have him projected at 268, which is just insane. I don't understand where that
Uh-huh.
comes from. I
They're expecting it
I
to drop,
expect
I
those
guess.
projections to get fixed really quickly on him. Once ATC and at bat and all those guys come out, I think you're going to see that batting average projection um, go way up from 268. I don't really quite understand where Steamer gets that from. I don't project myself. I kind of mix a lot of things together and then maybe adjust a little things here and there. But yeah, I mean, maybe it's just that like the BABIP is high, and so you expect it to come down. I don't really see it. I mean, he's just a
Hmm.
good professional hitter, and I think you're
Oh
gonna,
yeah.
you know, again though, this kind of shows like just the weakness of the position and all in all though. Like, yeah, 2020 is awesome, but like he's not like superstar, like you know, fantasy player. But because second base is so bad, you have to pay for a 2022, and let's say he goes back to what he did in, you know, uh, let's say he regresses even a little bit, like 18. You have to pay a premium for that at the second base position. Like, second base sucks.
It does. It
But
does.
Ketel Marte is the one. The one. He is the guy. Um,
He's the king of the position at
always,
the moment.
always got a little bit of hate. But man, I was buying the dip on ADP on him for years, and it is no longer there. So what do we like about Ketel Marte?
He's just an all around as far as hitting goes. He's going to get you those home runs. Hopefully, I mean, 36 was the most of his career.
Mhm.
He hit 32 in 2019, and then other than that, he had 25 in 2023. So I think anywhere between that 25 and 35 range is what we're going to get for
Mhm.
him. Stolen bases, not double digits, but more than five. So hopefully he gets 8 or 9, and good batting average. He averages 280 as a batting average in his career. So I think you should be expecting that. Some good run production out of him, and yeah, I mean honestly, if the position wasn't this weak, he might not be the number one guy,
Correct. Yeah,
but
you
it
would like
is.
you would
So
like to
he
see
is.
more steal out of a guy you're having to pay this high of a price for. But I mean, second base is weird because like there outside of Altuve, like these top guys, like there's not a lot of like power speed combos. And then at the second half, there's no power speed combos, but you get more speed guys. Like the top
Hmm.
is like more the kind of like moderate power guys, and then the bottom half is like more speed. It's such a weird position. It's almost like you've just got to figure out which way you want to attack second base and what you want to get out of it and how you can build the rest of your draft around second base. Um, and yeah, I mean, like I agree with you. I don't know if we're going to get 36 from Marte. I think that was a massive surprise, especially given that he only played 136 games. He did get dinged up. I think seeing it fall to somewhere closer to 25, 26, 27 would be more realistic. Um, but like, I think a lot of people look at those years where he hit, 12 home runs, 14 home runs. He saw the power drop That
Yeah.
Arizona lineup was awful. You saw him start to produce more once they got more around him. Christian Walker really turned things around. Corbin Carroll was there. They brought in Garcia. Like bringing in guys to support, your superstar in the lineup. Like, oh man, those things work. Like, don't leave your guy, hanging out to dry. Like Mike Trout's gonna, there's only so many Mike Trouts that could put up like superstar numbers with absolutely nobody around him. So,
Yep.
uh, it's that kind of thing. So I think we're gonna see another good season from Marte, given health, and just that. I think the Arizona Diamondbacks, they started off pretty slow last year, but they got rolling again close to the postseason. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we're gonna see. I hope we see more of that carryover because it's a fun offense to watch, man. It really is. So.
I agree.
All right, man. Well, that is it for your top 10 second base rankings. Connor, I want to thank you for joining me. And before we go, remind everybody again, hit that subscribe button, the like button, jump over to Fantasy Six Pack, become an all access member. Use promo code F6P MLB25, save 15%. All the links will be in the show descriptions. And until next time, Connor, see ya.
Yep. See ya.